welcome into the Mountaineers Now postgame show. I'm Skylar Callahan, joined with me, as always, former West Virginia running back Eugene Napoleon. And the Mountaineers have now fallen to 2-3 and 0-2 in Big 12 play as they drop tonight's game to the Texas Longhorns 38-20. And it kind of felt like from the very get-go that this one could get out of hand, and it really was for the longest time. West Virginia kind of chipped back into it a little bit in the second half. I think a lot of that was just Texas not really worrying about adding any more onto the wound, and I think West Virginia too, they kind of milked the clock a little bit and kind of kept their defense off the field. So 38-20. Let's talk about the start to this game, Eugene, because I know this was something that had you very upset and frustrated, and I'm sure most of the West Virginia fan base can share that feeling with you. You just can't simply come out and play the way they did. You fall behind 21-0. Offense was just anemic, couldn't do anything. Defense couldn't get off the field. Special teams had several very close calls to being for the punts being blocked. Felt like they were going to get hand on one at some point. So just kind of give your initial thoughts on the start of this game and how bad it really was for the Mountaineers.
Well, I'm perplexed, to be honest with you. Totally wasn't the outcome that I was expecting, as well as I'm sure Mountaineer Nation is the same. I'm almost positive of that. No, that's nowhere near the type of brand of football that I'm used to coming out of Morgantown. It's almost like I'm at a loss for words, to be honest with you. Like, I can't believe what I just witnessed, because it's one thing it looked as though, and not to say that we were, it just looked as though that we were not prepared.
Yeah.
So, you can't step onto a field with a program like Texas and give up 21 early points and expect to be in the game coming back into the second half. It just doesn't work that way at this level. So I'll say it again. Coach Brown is a good dude, man. He's a good guy. Listen, in all of my years being involved with West Virginia football as a player and now as a fan, I don't ever remember us being at the bottom of any conference. You understand? Like, years ago when they were in, me playing, we wasn't in a conference. We were independent. When they went to the Big East, they were never at the bottom of the barrel. Now in the Big 12, the way I'm looking at this, you got two teams that built their programs in less than 3 years. Yeah. Seemingly like that, okay?
Baylor in Kansas.
Baylor and Kansas. Okay, so don't tell me that it's impossible to do, because we're seeing it within our own conference, okay? Yeah. So either there's something wrong with where we are sitting in our perspective on this thing, or there's something wrong. So I'll just go back to there's something wrong. You can't tell me that. If Kansas didn't do it, okay. If Baylor didn't do it, heck, Baylor did it and won a freaking conference championship. So you can't tell me. And for these individuals who keep saying we're expecting too much, West Virginia's not there, what are we talking about? Last I checked, West Virginia is the 13th winningest program in NCAA history. Last I checked. The 13th winningest program in the history of college football. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
We have to sit back and revamp this thing. I don't know how, I don't know when you're going to start, but I do know this. Tonight really showed me how far off the mark we are.
Yeah. 100%. And before I get into my little spiel about this, let's go ahead and run through some of the stats from tonight's game. Hudson Card, Texas quarterback, 21-27, 303 for 3 touchdowns. Bijan Robinson, 101 yards and a touchdown on 21 carries. You knew he was going to get his yardage. It's just about everything else. Xavier Worthy, one of the most dynamic receivers in the Big 12, 7 catches, 119 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he also threw for a touchdown on a pass that went for a score. As for West Virginia, JT Daniels, not his best self, but wasn't bad. Probably got a little better as the game went on. 29 of 48, 253 in a score. Bryce Ford Wheaton, 8 catches for 93 yards. Justin Johnson leading the way on the ground, 10 carries for 42 yards and a touchdown. And before I get any further, I do want to send out my thoughts and prayers to C.J. Donaldson. Obviously, a very scary moment for him on the field. And Gene, I know you want to say something about that because that was an awful, scary thing that you don't want to see happen.
I was just getting ready to say the same thing. My wife and I was sitting there watching that, and you hate to see that. And praying for him and his family, and of course, the staff, teammates. You just don't want to see that.
Yeah.
So I'm praying that young man speedy recovery, and hopefully he'll get back to form soon. But more importantly, not even thinking about football, thinking about his overall health. So definitely praying about that.
Yeah, scary situation. Obviously, we all know how talented of a player he is. We've heard really good things about him as a person too. So just obviously want to wish the best for him and his family. Obviously, a tough situation for he and the team really to come back from. But back to the football game. Really, after that moment, things kind of slowed down. It seemed like really for both teams, and that's kind of why I want to concentrate on the start of this game because I think at the end of the game. That was a big problem for me was you're down multiple scores, right? 3-4 scores. And it felt like there was no urgency offensively for West Virginia. When you're down multiple scores, like it felt like they were waving the white flag and not trying to get back into the game. There was still plenty of time. I know it would have been an insurmountable comeback, or it felt like one, but there was still enough time to make some crazy run happen. If you remember Will Greer, 2017, they were down 26, 28 points to Texas Tech. They came back and won the game. Not saying that's going to happen, but it felt like they were taking way too much time and was almost trying to just make it look more respectable rather than playing the game the way it should have and see what happens. But to me, back to what your point was. Kansas turned that thing around in year 2 under Lance Leipold. They're 5-0, Gene. Kansas Jayhawks are 5-0 in year 2 of Lance Leipold. Dave Aranda, year 2, won the Big 12 conference after winning 2 or 3 games in year 1.
Yes.
This is year 4 of Neil Brown. And again, as we've said a billion times on this show and other shows, great guy, great dude, but at some point you got to start producing wins. And at this point, what are you doing? That's my biggest question because you're in year 4. To me, it's not about competing anymore. It's about winning these games. It's about beating teams like Texas, who is supposed to be a top 4, top 5 team in this league. It's about beating teams like Texas Tech and Baylor, who you're going to have up next on the schedule.
Right.
I don't see there being many wins on the schedule for this team. And again, year 4, it's not about competing; it's about winning games. That's competing was what you should have been doing in the first 2 years. Year 3, year 4, it's starting to get results.
Well, I think. Listen, as I said, if Baylor didn't do it and Kansas didn't do it, then I probably will be sitting here saying, wow, it's insurmountable. It's almost impossible. But the fact that you have 2 teams in your own conference that you have to play head to head and you lost to one of them already in Kansas, it goes to show you something. Now, here's what's interesting. If somebody tells me that, okay, if it's hard to recruit in Morgantown, oh, really? And it's easier to recruit in Kansas? Come on, man. Stop. You understand what I'm saying to you? Like, yeah. You can't beat me in the head with the inconsistencies and the nonsense. Like, it's common sense. Listen, stop. Again, I just saw a parody that somebody was saying, well, I guess Kansas is not considered a basketball school anymore. Wow. Okay, think about that, right? Yeah. So it's funny how you make things fit your narrative when it needs to fit your narrative.
Yeah.
With some of the conversations that we have about this stuff. Point blank period, we're to a point where your program is took a 3 or 4 steps backwards, okay?
Yeah.
About what you see. This stuff is not personal. It's not personal. Like I said, Neil Brown is a great man. He's a good man. So when I say what I'm saying, this is not personal. This is strictly football related. In my business, as a CEO of my company in the music entertainment industry, when things happen, it's business. We don't talk about it being personal, it's business, right? So here's what I'm saying, sports world. This is not personal. This is business.
And on top of that, when you're talking about business, I know everyone says, well, football is a results-oriented business. To me, every business is a results-oriented business, because if you don't have the results that you want, you're either going to change something or stop doing what you're doing. So,
period.
I mean,
what is the definition of insanity?
Yeah.
You keep doing the same thing over and over again, but you expect different results, correct? All right. Listen, okay.
So, Gene, we're going to go in on this next week, and I mean really go in on this. Normally we have the walkthrough game day show up on Thursdays at 6 o'clock. Next week, West Virginia doesn't have a game, but we're still going to bring you our picks for next week's games. We're going to talk about this game more about the trajectory of the program. But I think we might bring this one out a little bit sooner, so that way people can really get to see our full in-depth of this game. So we'll have to get on that, so be on the lookout for that. Before we get off here, let's take a look at the road ahead for West Virginia. Again, next week they are off. They will have a bye. They have some time to recover and try to figure some things out. And then they come back and play number 16 Baylor. Again, another tough opponent on a Thursday night in Morgantown, 7 o'clock FS1. And then they're going to hit the road to take on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, a team, Gene, that Neil Brown has yet to defeat. He is 0-3 against Texas Tech. They come back home after that to take on TCU. So I want to leave you with this. West Virginia had 9 days to prepare for this football game. Texas had 7. Texas also went to overtime. Their defense also played 100 snaps.
Right.
Coming into this game, our keys to the game: run the ball. They didn't do that. They didn't do it. And I'm not saying that would have won them the game, but it felt like West Virginia kind of got a little bit away from their identity tonight. If they don't get back to that identity, those next 2 to 3 games that I just mentioned could be big problems for this team.
Listen, Texas is not the best team in the Big 12. So if you go into Austin, Texas, and you lose by 18 points to a team that's not the best team in your conference, what does that say? This is business.
Yeah.
So we need to figure something out moving forward after this season for the next few years of our program to get back to where we were. Okay? I'm not sitting here saying anything else about, good God, this, that. Listen, we need to get back to where we were a few years ago, because West Virginia is that type of program where we were here. We took a little bit of dive here with Hogerson. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. Yeah, here. And at first, I thought we had a chance to go back here, but now we're here, okay? And when I start seeing the nose of anything go from here to here, after 4 years,
that's plenty of time, man. I mean,
I've seen enough. Not when I've seen the landscape of 2 other programs change in 2. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. And both those programs were not, I'm sorry, I'll say it, were not on the caliber of West Virginia.
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
say it.
certainly not Kansas.
All right. No.
It's
I'll say it. I will say neither one of those programs were on the trajectory of where West Virginia was. I'm sorry. Now people get upset. Oh my God, how can you say that? Yeah, I'll say it.
Listen, I know everyone is frustrated about this game. There's a lot that I didn't really want to talk about tonight because I want to save it for our show next week because it's going to be.
We got plenty.
Listen, we're gonna talk a lot about this game. We're gonna go raw, deep, honest conversations about where this team is going. And yeah, I mean, 4 years, something's got to happen. You can't you can't be sitting here spinning and stuck in neutral. So that's going to do it for the walkthrough game day show. Excuse me, not the walkthrough game day show, but for the Mountaineers Now post game show for Eugene Napoleon. I'm Skylar Callahan. Again, be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Mountaineers Now. Follow us on Twitter, Mountaineers Now, myself at Callahan _ and Eugene at Napoleon _ Eugene. We'll be back next week with the walkthrough game day show, previewing next week's games on the DVM Pick'em slate, and we'll be talking about West Virginia's loss once again to Texas, and we're going to go really deep into this one. So be sure to get back and watch us right here on the Mountaineers Now, or on the walkthrough game day show, because we're going to be really going at it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you're not going to want to miss it out. So until then, take care.